G'day, 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 good day to you, sir, and how the bloody hell are you? It is Cracker Freddy, and I am back playing the Medal of Honor Warfighter Beta. Now today I'm going to be playing as the Russian Spetsgruppe. I doubt I pronounced that correctly, but it is also called the Alpha Group, and I can pronounce that just fine. Now the Alpha Group is an elite standalone component of Russia's Special Forces and the dedicated counter-terrorism task force of the Russian Federal Security Service, or the FSB. Now the weapon you do start with is the AKS-74U. I'm sure many of you / most of you will have come encounter with this before and will know what it is, but just to reiterate, the AKS-74U is a Russian carbine, and it fires 5.45mm cartridges and has a 30 round clip. Okay, so moving on from the class, this is my final gameplay of the beta. For those of you who don't know, the beta has now finished. It finished at some stage today while I was at work, got home, and it's no longer on. So it's probably a pretty good time to reflect on it. I may as well start off by mentioning the menus, which I have already gone through in a previous video of mine. If you haven't seen that video, I will put a link in the description. But yeah, basically the menus are a little bit confusing. They don't seem to flow that well. They're just a little bit hard to figure out what's going on with the classes and how to upgrade and what you're meant to be selecting and that sort of thing. And to be perfectly honest, from my perspective at times, so you just can't be bothered. In the end, you're just like, nah, I can't be asked. Whatever, give me a guy, give me a country, and I'll go and see how well I do with it. Now the next thing I want to talk about quickly is the actual user interface. What you can see on the screen right now, and what you may have noticed, is it's pretty cluttered. Like, there is information and just shit all over the screen. You know, you've got, I don't know, each corner seems to be full of stuff. There's text going on everywhere. I don't know, it's just a little bit confusing and a little bit full on, and I don't know, I just can't help but think it's perhaps a little bit unnecessary. Next thing is the game type that you get in the beta. Now the game type is called Hotspot. It's fairly simple. You are either trying to plant or defuse a bomb on designated targets around the map. Whilst I'm sure the intention was simply to showcase a new game type, I don't know, call me pessimistic, but I just can't see this particular game type really taking off. Perhaps they would have been better suited to just throw a simple team deathmatch in and let people discover this type of game mode and others in the final release. Now, I know I've already mentioned what I think of the map in previous videos of mine, but I will just touch on it again in case you haven't seen those. I think it's set in Sarajevo, possibly, and I just personally don't particularly like night maps. I didn't really like either of the ones in Battlefield 3, and I just don't particularly like this one. It just looks so bland and boring and drab, and I know there's a lot of sort of concrete buildings around, so it does look fairly grey anyway, but I think the nighttime takes away from it, and you know, if I was showcasing my game, I think I'd probably put a nice bright colourful daytime map in to really show off how the graphics look, how the maps look, that sort of thing. But that's just me personally. Another thing I've touched on in previous videos is that, well, I sort of touched on it but didn't explain myself. I guess I'm a little bit dubious of how close to the release date they brought this out, and really question its value. I think it's probably more of an advertising type of campaign, and you know what, that's fine, they've got to get their game out there. I haven't actually seen a lot of advertising about it. It doesn't seem to be as heavily advertised as something like Call of Duty with Black Ops 2 on the way. That's sort of been pushed in your face a little bit. Haven't seen a lot on this, so yeah, I've got nothing against them using a beta as a advertising campaign, as well as I'm sure they're probably testing out how the servers can handle it, or you know, I can guarantee there's something else underlying it, not just that. But there's, you know, I don't know, there's just a question of whether or not they're going to be able to really make any major changes before the opening release date. I think one thing that they need to work on is the spawns. I did show a video that basically just says the spawns are broken, but I guess what the issue is when you spawn in, you can either select your buddy, someone in your squad, to spawn on. Now the annoying thing with that is every time that person gets shot at, I think it is, or hit, one or the other, it resets the countdown timer. So you're sitting there waiting to respawn, and each time you want to respawn, if you've only got one buddy in your squad, for example, then you're going to have to wait for them to go and hide. If you don't have comms with them, if you're just playing a random game like I was, it can be difficult. You know, you want to tell them just to go and hide for a second so you can spawn in. Now, the alternative to spawning on your buddy is just to basically spawn back in what I'm sure the game would have you believe is a safe spawn back, you know, in your own spot. But it is a predetermined area that you spawn in. And it's not necessarily protected at all. If the other team is up in that area, then you would just spawn right in the middle of it. And I guess that's what was annoying me in the video I did make about the spawns being broken. It just seems like this game is going to be heavily affected by spawn camping. If the other team can figure out where you and the rest of your team are spawning, then it's going to make it pretty easy for them to sort of sit there and pick you off. So that does put a lot of reliance on your buddy, as the game calls them, to be aware of you, trying to spawn in, to stay alive long enough. Otherwise, things are going to get difficult. And you know what? If your buddy spawns into that spawn area where the other team are just hammering, then that's all you've got. That's your only option. So I think that definitely needs to be worked on. They need to have more randomized spawns. Just probably a more sensible system. I'll be interested to see if that has already been fixed and updated for the final release. But yeah, I don't know. With the game so close to release date, you can't help but think that this is going to be fairly close to the product we're going to be getting in, what is it, just 10 days time now, or 9 days time. Okay, so now that I've set the all-new world record for saying the word spawn the most amount of times within a minute, I just want to point out that even though so far this review probably seems like all doom and gloom towards Warfighter, and that my final sort of verdict on this beta is going to be that it was rubbish and I hate it, blah blah blah, but that's not actually the case. I do enjoy the game. I think they did a lot of things right. The game plays out fairly well. It's not quite as fast as something like Call of Duty. It is a little bit slower, but perhaps not quite in the same regard as Battlefield 3. So it's almost going to be a halfway game between the two. But I did have a lot of fun. I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun. I have pre-ordered the game, so I am going to be picking that up in not very many days' time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying some new levels and getting the hang of everything like that. But the one thing that does concern me is that even though I've had this beta there, I remember when I got the Battlefield beta, I couldn't wait to play it. You know, I just pumped a lot of hours into that, so much so that by the time I got the final release version of Battlefield 3, I couldn't stomach Metro for at least the first month. I just couldn't stand to look at it. But that's just how that goes, I suppose. And it's just a little bit concerning that I haven't really been bothered playing this. You know, I'm sort of in the middle of a game of Borderlands and that sort of thing, and I just couldn't help but jump back onto that, come in, have a bit of a bash on this, and it just makes me wonder how long I'm going to stick with this game. And surely I can't be the only person in the world that is going to be thinking like this. So it might be a bit of fun for a couple of months, that sort of thing. But I really doubt by the time that Call of Duty comes out, I think a lot of players are going to be going to that. On a personal note, I'm actually looking forward to Aftermath, which is, of course, the next Battlefield 3 DLC to come out. And I hate to say it, but as much fun as I'm sure I'm going to be having with Medal of Honor, something like Aftermath is just as likely to pull me away from this again and get me back into Battlefield 3. This is probably also a pretty good time. Just to remind everybody that, again, this is just my opinion. It's not a review. And my opinion is based solely on this beta, one map, all the things that they've given us. So yeah, look, I really do hope that the final release game is just amazing. I hope I bring it home, put it in my PlayStation, fall in love with the levels, fall in love with the game, and just spend the next 12 months, you know, smashing the back end out of Medal of Honor, in a good way, of course, not in a bad way. Anyway, that is my final thought on the Medal of Honor beta. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do feel free to give it a like, and also hit that subscribe button. I will be putting out more Medal of Honor videos, as well as some more Battlefield 3. And in my best Australian accent, I'll fucking see yous later.